Hi everybody, it's Janet here from the Tips team, and today we're going to play a little bit with an add-on in Sheets. It's called FormCreator, and let's get started. Oh, I should just let you know I'm in a room which has a fan going, so if you hear this sort of whirring sound in the background, that would be a fan that keeps our servers at a nice cool temperature here at the Center for Education. Anyway, let's go find the presentation document. Just hang on a second. Okay, on the page that links to our live Hangout today, you will see a link to this presentation. And if you use this presentation, it does give you some links to like sample lists of student names and sample documents that I'm using throughout the presentation. So you're welcome to go grab that. The actual Head Start, if you would like to start installing a couple of add-ons while I talk just briefly about what we're going to do, those add-ons, the ones you really need are the ones on slide 6. And what those are, we're going to be using one little add-on that's called Split Names, another one called FormCreator. That's the one we're going to spend most of our time looking at. We may or may not use one that's called Remove Blank Rows. I think we're probably not going to need it. We will be using an add-on later on called Row Call. And what these add-ons do is split names. Takes, if you have your students' names, first name, last name, it'll split them into separate columns. FormCreator is a way to backwards create a form from a sheet. And we'll talk about that in lots more detail in a sec. Remove Blank Rows does exactly that. Row Call will take data that's come into a Google Sheet, and you can republish that data as separate tabs along the bottom of your sheet. So for example, if you want to keep track of a student's progress over time, you could have a tab with each student's name along the bottom of your sheet, and each time you fill out the form, it will update your master sheet, and then you can propagate all that information out to the separate tabs. Really useful. We're also going, just to facilitate me quickly creating docs and sheets along the way, I'll be using a Google extension called Google Docs Quick Create. What that one does, excuse me, is it puts this little button here at the top of my page, so I can click and create a new document, new spreadsheet, just on the fly wherever I am. And we'll also be playing a little bit with conditional formatting. Hopefully it won't take too long, but I'd like it to be that if a student has met an outcome, that colors the box green on your spreadsheet. If they're still working towards it, we'll color it yellow. And there's also, if any of you have been to any of my sessions on this topic lately, I did not know this until today. There is a wonderful little technique where you right-click in the cell on a spreadsheet. You can go paste special, paste transpose, and what that does is if you have a whole lot of information, say in a column, so a list of student names, if you paste it that way, it will have those populate horizontally instead. You'll see where that becomes useful in just a few minutes. The steps that we're going to go through today are on the following slide, but let's take a look at what we're trying to do first of all. Excuse me. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to download some add-ons, and then from there we're going to backwards create a form that feeds color and comments to a sheet. The idea here is, in our kind of pursuit to learn more about assessment here in Edmonton Public Schools, we're trying to gather evidence of learning, whether it's conversations, observations, and products. We see Google Drive as very much a good repository in order to keep that information, and that information may be photos of student work, etc., but it may also just be information that you've been gathering through Google Forms and keeping on a Google Sheet. And so that's what this is about. This is what I'd like to create, something like this, where we create a form that we can scroll to access our student names, and then we can have various stems of questions where you can choose whether they have met it or not yet met it, and where a comment can be inserted. This way, for example, if you have an iPad, you could be using your iPad as you walk around the room to very quickly just take notes about students' progress towards meeting various outcomes in the curriculum. You could also use this if you were co-creating criteria with students ahead of time. These are the things that we're going to be looking at when evaluating our work. You could compile that information together on a Google Doc, then very quickly use the process we're going to talk about today to create that form from that criteria that you have created with your students. So it's a way to gather the criteria together or curricular outcomes together that you can create quick feedback with, whether you're just doing a yes, no in a scroll box or by adding comments in a text box or even verbally in a text box if you're using an iPad. And then how that will display in the end, it will display on a Google Sheet that can be color-coded and also include your comments and can, as I was talking about earlier, place your students' names along the bottom of the sheet so you can keep track of each student's progress over time. So first of all, to get set up, in this presentation, there is a link to a sample student list. And I'll just click make a copy. And of course, you can just grab a list of your student names from PowerSchool or from elsewhere. And I decided in the sample list just to have first names and last names here, just so I can show you how quickly you can split names using the split names add-on. So let's say you haven't added any add-ons yet. The first add-on we'll be using is split names. If I'm in a sheet, I click on add-ons and I would go down to the bottom of my add-ons, down to get add-ons, which isn't showing on here because of the way I have so many add-ons displaying. But once you go to get add-ons, just search split names and it will take you to this add-on, install it, then go to add-ons, split names, and start. And is quickly saying, my column has a header. Actually, this column doesn't. And I would like a column called first name and a column called last name, so I'll go split. And I guess I better highlight all my names. Try that again. Oops. So first one, last one with a shift key. Add-ons, split names, start. Split. There we go. I'll just delete that one. That was the extra. So now I can have my students, I can just call them by first name. So I'm going to take my, well, I'll come back to that in a bit. Okay, so now I've got some student names ready to go. These are the other add-ons we're using, as I mentioned. So split names, FormCreator, remove blank rows and roll call. So what we're going to do is the instructions are right here. We're going to more or less follow those in our conversation this afternoon. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is I'm going to click into this example. And what this does is it's going to pull out the outcomes for grade 5 science, wetland ecosystems. Now, how you're welcome to make a copy the same way. How I got these outcomes into this spreadsheet is I literally went to Learn Alberta and I just did a search in Learn Alberta for the grade 5 outcomes, and they're here. For the sake of our sample, I'm just going to take these outcomes. Now, these are the specific learner outcomes for the grade 5 wetlands unit. I'm just going to go Control Copy to put it on my clipboard. And with the FormCreator add-on, I can take any list of outcomes like this list, and I can populate it into a form. But what I'd like to do, as you know, is I would like to make it a little bit more complex because I would like to have a comment box underneath each one of those outcomes. So for now, I've just put them into my clipboard, and I'm sure there's a way in Forms where I can quickly add those blank rows underneath. But as this example, I'd like to show how you're going to make a form if it's a lot of information. Like if the form only had 5 questions, why not just go to Forms and create a form and copy paste those 5 questions. But here I have, you know, over a dozen rows of data. Let's say I had even more than that. I want to be able to make that form quickly without doing that copy paste, you know, duplicate question kind of process that's time consuming and awkward. So for now, I've put my outcomes on my clipboard, and I'm going to go up to my Google Docs Quick Create add-on, and I'm just going to create a new document. And I'm going to paste those outcomes into the document. So let's say I had grabbed them from Learn Alberta. I could just paste them directly into that document. And actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just undo that. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to paste without formatting because I don't want those little table cells to show. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I'd like to put a blank row under each of these, and I can just quickly do this by pressing my Enter key. And I'm going to put one under here, but we're going to change that one later on once we get to our form. So you get the idea. So I'm going to have an outcome followed by a blank row. So now I'm going to select all, Control Copy. And now I will go back to, I guess we'll just use this sheet. I'm going to create a new sheet. And so I'm in the same sheet. I've created a new tab in the sheet. And this is where I'm going to run the FormCreator add-on. So add-ons, FormCreator, you'll have to get it from the Get Add-ons if you haven't yet done that. Create form. Setup sheet. And my question titles are going to go down here. So the first thing I want to ask them is, what is your name? And then, if I just paste what's on my clipboard right here, it's going to put them all into that cell. So I'm going to just click here and scroll it down one so we know it's going to keep going, and Control Paste. And you'll see that it's now pasted in all of those outcomes with a blank row between each of them. So now let's say question type. So my name is going to be a list because I want them to choose from that list of names. So to get my list of names, I'm just going to go over to my other sheet with those names on it. And I'm going to go from Carla all the way down to Wendy, Control Copy, back to the other spreadsheet. And here it says begin choices depending on question type. So I'll click in that cell. I'm going to right click, and this is where I will go paste special, over to the side, paste transpose, and that's what should have the names go sideways. Oops, it didn't bring out my names, it brought out my outcomes again. I'll just undo that, grab the names again. Right click, copy. Right click, paste special, paste transpose. Oh, isn't that odd? We'll try it one more time. Copy. Let's see if it pastes here. Control paste. Carla to Wendy. Control copy. Control paste. There we go. So if I go here, paste special, paste transpose. I do not know why that's going there. I'm going to just paste the other one in here and see what happens. Okay, that's pasting there. Back to and copy that. Sheet 2, questions. rid of these other ones. Paste special, paste transpose. There we go. So now my names are all in there. And now these items are going to be, so these ones, I want them to be like multiple choice. So it's going to be yes, I've met that outcome, and not yet, I've met that outcome. And now I can take this and just drag it down in order to make yes be available for all of these items. And because the blank rows are going to be text boxes, it actually doesn't matter if the yes is sitting there, it won't appear as a separate item. So not yet. And now here, that's going to be multiple choice. That's going to be paragraph text. Now here, if I highlight both of these, I should be able to just drag that down too. Yes. Okay, so I have my name, that's the name's the scroll. We have multiple choice questions and we have paragraph text. So now I'm going to give my form a title, and I'll call it Wetlands Unit SLOs, create form. You'll see it says my minions are working to create your form. And says success. Now, my published form looks like this. It's in the old forms, and perhaps I'm happy just to go with it like that. Or I can just go back here and say edit form. Now, if I don't work for Edmonton Public, obviously require EPS login to view this form is not going to be an option for you at that point. I'm going to just switch this off anyway at this point. However, let's say you were you wanted to use this with your students to do some self-assessment, then in that case maybe you would want to require the login for them to view the form, because then as they choose the student's name in the list and go through, you can match that against their login to make sure that it's the student has chosen the right name. As I go through here, you can see I've got my name, I've got my multiple choice, yes, not yet, place for a comment. There is that one question that had some sub right here. Identify the roles of different organisms in the food web of a pond. And then it gives you producers, consumers, etc. So you could go in here and you could edit that question by adding a, by changing it into like a title heading instead of a question itself. So those are changes that you can just make in your form as you're going. Let's get over there to the new forms. Okay, so if I make that change, identify the roles of different, I can just click in here, and here I can add a question, I can add title and description, I can add a separate section. So maybe I just want a little title there, and I can paste this, control copy, over into there. And now I can take this question and I can just delete it. And I can click here to preview my form. Wetland units SLOs, put your answers for each question in the box below. I can choose the name of my student. So Carla, yes, yes. And what's nice about these forms is you don't need to fill out the entire form in order to be able to access the information from it. So if you had a unit that you were assessing over a number of periods, that's fine. I can go back and I can add some more items for Carla at another time, and it's just going to go into my spreadsheet. So I'm just going to add a couple of these so that we have some information in our spreadsheet once we get there. So we've put in a few items for Carla, and I'm going to add one more student. So we have 2 students worth of data that we can play with that roll call add-on. So submit another response. So now we'll say Megan, and yes, and not yet, and submit. Okay, so now I'm going to head back to the form itself. I can see in my form summary that I've had 3 responses so far, and those responses are summarized down below. But what I want to do is set up the spreadsheet that it's going to go to, and I would like it to go to this same spreadsheet that we've been working on before. So I've called this copy of sample grade 5. I'm just going to put the date so I've got the right copy. So March the 8th. This is the spreadsheet where I'd like my forms to go. So I'll go back here, and up here I can click select response destination, and I want to select an existing spreadsheet, select, and March 8th copy of sample, select. So now it's linking to the spreadsheet. So when I go back to my spreadsheet here, if I go to the front of the spreadsheet, I now have the responses that are starting to come in. So we'll see we've filled in for Carla twice. We've put in this information. We filled in for Megan once. We've put in this information. And I forgot to write some comments, so let's just put some comments in for somebody as well. Back to the form. So let's choose Carla one more time. And I'm going to say yes again. And here I'll say excellent understanding of all terms. And submit. Okay, so back to our sheet. Now our comment has come in as well for Carla. Now, this is gathering all of this information, but it's not putting it on the separate sheets for each student. To do that, I am just going to close this. And I'm going to go to my add-ons and go to an add-on called roll call. And I'll say start. And this add-on will take all of my student names and put them as the names of separate tabs. So yes, it's the name column I would like to use. And I'll say sort update. And I'm just going to close this up. So now my form responses still remain on the front page, but I can see everything I have for Megan right here, everything I have for Carla, who's had more responses, right here, and so forth for other students in the class. What I've noticed is that if I change something here, it will automatically show up on the other tabs. So if I say superb, and I've added that in there, if I click over to Carla's tab, superb has automatically propagated its way through to that tab. Now, let's say I want to color coordinate what comes in. So anything that's yes automatically turns that cell green. And if it says not yet, it turns that cell yellow. The way to do that is for me to go up to my, where is it? My format, down to conditional formatting. And I can say anywhere from B2 all the way, let's say, to ZZ40. If a cell, if the text contains yes, formatting cell is going to be green, and my text is also going to be green. And then I can say done. B2 to Z40. Done. And now you can see that the yeses have automatically turned green. And I'll add another rule. So we'll say B2 to Z40. If the cell contains not yet, then I would like it to be yellow. And I would also like my text to be yellow. And done. And you'll see that now it's done that as well. So I can tell at a glance which outcomes my students are achieving, which outcomes they haven't achieved yet, just by looking at this one spreadsheet. So I think we've used just about everything I'd like to show you today. The one thing that I did include on that list as well is, let's say you have information on a student and you would like to share it with the student, and it's a little hard to see when you have all of this information across the top. There is another add-on that is called Save as Doc. If I go Addons, Save as Doc, and start, and right now I'm just looking at Carla's data, I can, I have headings along the top, yes. I can show, let's see, include my headings. First, headings. I can go Save as Doc. I don't want to add a page break because this is all about Carla. Save as Doc. Open the doc. And so what it will do is it will spit out all of the information that you have highlighted, and I had only highlighted timestamps, so we're going to try that again. We'll go Control, whoops, this side, Control Select All, go all the way to the end here. Okay, include headings, save as doc. There we go. So I can quickly say, okay, this is where Carla has been. This is where she was at 4 o'clock on March the 8th. Yes, yes. As we move over time, maybe it's a week later, there's another timestamp. This is where she was there. And had I wished to have each timestamp on a separate sheet, I could have checked that off at the beginning. So that's much easier to read than trying to figure out what's in these little cells in the document. So I hope you found that useful. Looking forward to the next after school special. If you have any questions, please email me, janet.bell@epsb.ca. And don't forget to go back to this presentation. You can get some of the sample links and play with the process yourself. Thanks. Bye.